In the dense emerald jungles of Central America, a great civilization once flourished. This was the world of the Maya. For centuries they built towering pyramids that pierced the canopy. They carved intricate histories into stone, and they developed a calendar of breathtaking accuracy. Their cities were vibrant hubs of art, science and trade, sprawling across what is now southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize and western Honduras. But at the heart of this remarkable society, pulsing like a spiritual lifeblood, was a profound and complex religious faith. It was a belief system that gave meaning to every sunrise, every drop of rain, and every kernel of corn. This was not simply a religion confined to temples and priests. It was woven into the very fabric of daily existence. The Maya saw the sacred in the world around them. The mountains were living gods. The dark, watery caves were portals to the underworld. The stars were divine beings charting the course of destiny. Their faith connected them to the cosmos, to their ancestors, and to the powerful forces of nature that governed their lives. It was a worldview that demanded respect, reciprocity, and a constant dialogue between the human and the divine, a spiritual contract maintained through elaborate ritual and unwavering devotion. The collapse of the classic Maya cities in the southern lowlands around the 9th century AD is one of history's great mysteries. Yet the Maya people did not vanish. Their civilization transformed, but their spiritual traditions endured. These beliefs, passed down through generations, survived the Spanish conquest and centuries of colonial pressure. They adapted, blended with new faiths like Catholicism, but never lost their essential core. This resilience is a testament to the power and importance of their ancestral worldview. Today, millions of Maya people continue to practice their traditional beliefs. They still call upon the ancient gods for rain. They still honor the sacred days in their calendar. They still make offerings at shrines hidden deep in the hills and forests. The world of the Maya is not entirely lost. It lives on in the rituals, prayers and stories of their descendants. To truly understand this faith, we must embark on a journey guided by the fragmented clues the Maya left behind. Our first guides are the archaeologists and epigraphers who unearth magnificent temples and decipher intricate hieroglyphs. Each artifact, from a humble ceramic pot decorated with a dancing god to a royal tomb filled with jade treasures, offers a piece of the puzzle. These are the Maya codices, screenfold manuscripts of bark paper painted with vivid imagery and complex calculations. They are ritual almanacs, astronomical tables, and prophetic guides. Alongside them is the sacred book of the Quiche Maya, the Popol Vuh. This epic narrative tells the story of creation, the adventures of the hero twins in the underworld, and the origins of humanity. But our journey does not end in the distant past. It continues into the present day in the villages and communities of the Maya people themselves. Here we meet the modern-day shamans, the J-men or daykeepers who still use the sacred calendar for divination. We can witness rituals that echo ancient practices, where prayers are offered with incense and candles at both Catholic churches and remote mountain shrines. The voices of today's Maya elders, anthropologists who have lived among them, and scholars who have dedicated their lives to this study, provide the living context for the silent stones and ancient texts. This exploration is therefore a weaving together of many different threads of knowledge. We will combine archaeology with mythology, ancient texts with living traditions, and scientific understanding with spiritual belief. At the very core of Maya religious life lies the concept of costumbre, a Spanish term that translates to custom, but encompasses something far more profound. For the Maya, costumbre is the entire body of ritual work, the sacred obligations required to maintain harmony between the human community and the supernatural world. This is not a religion of passive belief, but one of constant, active participation. It is the sacred duty of the community, led by ritual specialists, to perform these customs correctly and at the proper times. This ritual life is not confined within temple walls. Instead, it is mapped directly onto the natural world. The entire Maya landscape is a sacred topography, a living, breathing entity imbued with spiritual power. Mountains are not merely geological formations. They are often seen as the colossal, sleeping forms of ancient ancestors or deities. Caves are revered as portals to the watery underworld, the feared realm of Xibalba. Central to all Maya ritual was the act of giving, of presenting carefully selected offerings to the pantheon of gods and ancestors. This was based on a fundamental principle of reciprocity. The gods provided the essentials for life, and in return humans were obligated to nourish and sustain the gods. The offerings were diverse and strictly regulated, each item carrying specific symbolic meaning. Precious substances like green jade associated with life and water were highly valued. Among the most potent offerings was blood, which the Maya believed contained a vital life force. For the elite, the ritual act of bloodletting was a primary duty. Kings and queens would use sharp instruments to perforate their bodies, allowing sacred blood to flow onto bark paper, which was then burned. The rising smoke from this offering was thought to be a direct channel of communication with the gods and ancestors. This painful act was a public performance of piety and power, and the Maya pantheon was not a static list of gods with fixed roles, but a dynamic and wonderfully complex assembly of divine beings. The nature of these deities was fluid, with many gods having multiple aspects that could change depending on the context. At the apex of the Maya pantheon were the creator deities. The most prominent was Itzamna, typically depicted as a wise, aged man, considered a fount of knowledge and the inventor of writing. Governing the daily journey of light was the powerful sun god, Kinich Ahau. During the day he blazed across the sky, but at night he made his perilous journey through the underworld, transforming into the fearsome jaguar god of the underworld. Complementing the sun was the moon goddess, a deity with a notably dualistic nature. In one aspect she was a beautiful young woman representing fertility and growth. However, she also had a dark side, appearing as an aged, destructive crone who could bring floods and disease. A really important part of Maya stories is the amazing tale of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Exbalanque. Their adventures are best told in the Popol Vuh. They are like the perfect Maya heroes, super smart, brave, and good at playing tricks. Their story starts with their father and uncle, who were tricked and beaten by the lords of Xibalba. The hero twins grew up to face the same challenge, called down to the underworld for deadly tests and a rigged ball game. What happens next is a thrilling story of smarts and courage. The twins use their cleverness to survive dangerous traps, spending nights in houses full of jaguars, scary bats, and sharp stone blades. They outsmarted the death gods in the ball game. In a final act of trickery, they let themselves be killed and their bones ground into dust. But then they came back to life as powerful magicians, ultimately defeating the lords of death and ascending to become the sun and moon. For the ancient Maya, time was not an abstract concept, but the very engine of the cosmos, a sacred and cyclical force that dictated the rhythm of life. The very units of time, the days, months, and years, were seen as divine beings, gods who carried the burden of time through the cosmos. The Maya developed one of the most sophisticated calendrical systems in human history. This was not just a way to mark seasons, it was a divine science, a method of mapping the sacred energies that flowed through creation. The most sacred was the 260-day calendar, the Tzolkin. This remarkable cycle combined 20 named days, each with its own deity and omen, with a cycle of 13 numbers. Each day was a unique combination, and the full sequence would not repeat for 260 days. Working in parallel was the 365-day solar calendar, the Hab. It was composed of 18 months of 20 days each, plus a special 5-day period called the Wayeb, considered a dangerous and unlucky time when portals between worlds were open. Given that time was a divine force and the calendar a sacred map of destiny, the ability to interpret its signs was of paramount importance. The practice of divination was considered a sacred science, vital for navigating the dangerous currents of life. This knowledge was the domain of specialized practitioners, the daykeepers. When an individual faced a major decision or mysterious illness, they would consult a daykeeper. The diviner would cast seeds onto a cloth, counting them according to the patterns of the sacred calendar. The Maya gazed at the heavens with focused intensity, believing that celestial movements were intimately connected to earthly events. The most important celestial body after the sun and moon was Venus, whose cycles were dangerously intertwined with warfare and violence. Eclipses were watched with great apprehension, seen as deeply ominous signs of cosmic disorder. The Maya believed that during an eclipse, terrifying star demons could descend to Earth and devour humanity. The Maya envisioned a universe that was profoundly structured and deeply sacred. Their world was typically conceived as a three-tiered structure, connecting the heavens, the earthly realm, and the mysterious underworld. At the top were the heavens, not a single uniform sky, but a layered realm with 13 distinct levels. Each layer was the domain of specific deities, a celestial hierarchy of powerful gods who oversaw the movements of celestial bodies. At the very heart of this cosmos stood the world tree, known as the Yaxchi. This cosmic axis was a colossal chamber tree whose roots plunged into Xibalba, its trunk passed through the human world, and its branches soared through the 13 heavens. Beneath the earth lay Xibalba, the place of fright. Like the heavens, it was layered, most commonly described as having 9 levels, each ruled by malevolent lords of the night. It was a cold, wet, dark place, the destination for most souls after death. The Maya believed that a human being was not a simple unified entity, but a composite of several different souls and spiritual components, each with its own function and destiny. This complex view shaped their understanding of life, health, and illness. The health of a person depended on these souls remaining securely within the body. A sudden fright could cause soul loss, considered a primary cause of illness. It was the crucial job of a shaman to diagnose and perform healing rituals to retrieve the wandering spirit. Many Maya believed each person had a spiritual counterpart outside of them, known as a co-essence or way. This was an animal or celestial phenomenon to which an individual's soul was mystically bound from birth, acting as a spirit companion and protector. For powerful individuals like kings and shamans, it was believed they could actually transform into their co-essence, becoming were-animals. This shape-shifting ability was a sign of immense spiritual power and was often depicted in Maya art. In the Maya world, religion was not separate from politics. It was the very source of political power. The ruler, the Kuhul Ajor, or Holy Lord, was far more than a mere king. They were the chief shaman of their kingdom, a divine axis around which the entire society revolved. Their right to rule was based on a sacred mandate. They were believed to be descended from the gods and possessed a unique ability to communicate with the divine realm. Their most profound duty was to nourish the cosmos through personal sacrifice. The daily life of the royal court was saturated with religious ceremony. The grandest temples were stages for the king's sacred performances. It was the ruler who led the most important rituals, impersonating deities and marking the passage of great calendar cycles. The king's sacred role extended to every aspect of life in the kingdom. They were seen as the guarantor of agricultural fertility and the chief diviner. The health and prosperity of the entire kingdom were seen as a direct reflection of the king's spiritual potency. Warfare among the Maya city-states was not simply a struggle for land or resources. It was a deeply sacred activity, guided and justified by religious belief. Battles were timed to coincide with auspicious astronomical events, particularly the cycles of Venus. The goal of Maya warfare was often to capture high-status individuals from rival courts. These noble captives were taken back to the victorious city to be displayed, ritually tormented, and eventually sacrificed in grand public ceremonies. Preparation for battle involved intense ritual activity. Warriors and their leaders would undergo purification, fasting, and prayer to make themselves spiritually fit for combat. They invoked powerful war deities to grant them strength and divine protection. Weapons themselves were considered sacred objects, imbued with spiritual power through specific consecration rituals. For the Maya, war was a necessary and holy endeavor, a violent but vital part of their interaction with the cosmos. Maya religion also served as a powerful force for mobilization, especially in times of crisis and oppression. When faced with foreign invasion, colonial domination, or extreme social stress, religious ideology often fueled revitalization movements. One famous example was the Celtal Rebellion of 1712 in Chiapas. The movement began when a young Maya girl claimed the Virgin Mary had spoken to her, quickly growing into a major indigenous uprising that created an independent Maya church and army. During the caste war of Yucatan in the late 19th century, Maya rebels were guided by a talking cross, a sacred oracle that gave military and spiritual guidance. The cult became the center of a new, independent Maya state that survived for decades. These religious revitalization movements demonstrate that religion was not a passive system of belief, but an active force that could be used to interpret and respond to profound social and political crises, proving that sacred traditions could be a source of strength and rebellion. At the heart of the Maya ethical worldview was the concept of a sacred covenant, a fundamental agreement between humanity and the divine. The gods had created the world and provided humans with maize, but this was not a free gift. In return, humans were obligated to feed and sustain the gods. This principle of reciprocity was the moral compass of Maya society. A good life was one lived in fulfillment of these sacred duties. Goodness was not an abstract virtue, but the active maintenance of cosmic balance through correct practice, or costumbre. This covenant-based morality meant that the most ethical act was the correct execution of ritual. Making offerings at the right time, praying with proper words, and observing purification were all moral imperatives. Failure to do so could disrupt cosmic order and bring misfortune. This worldview fostered a deep sense of collective responsibility. The well-being of the family, village and kingdom depended on everyone fulfilling their ritual obligations to the gods, ancestors and sacred earth. Our journey through the sacred world of the Maya has taken us from the misty jungle pyramids of the past to the vibrant village ceremonies of the present. We have seen how their universe was a structured, living entity, held together by a great world tree and populated by a complex pantheon of powerful deities. We have explored a faith where time itself was a divine being, where the stars wrote prophecies in the heavens, and where every mountain and cave was a sacred portal. It was a worldview that demanded constant interaction, a sacred dialogue between humanity and the cosmos. The collapse of the great classic cities did not signify the end of this profound faith. While stone monuments were reclaimed by jungle, the core beliefs, sacred calendars and ritual practices endured. They were passed down through generations, surviving conquest and colonial pressure. The echo of sacred time, the cyclical rhythm of the Tzolk'in, continued to beat, a spiritual pulse connecting the present to the most distant past. This remarkable resilience speaks to a faith deeply embedded in the daily lives and cultural identity of the people. The legacy of Maya religion is written across the landscape of Central America. It is visible in magnificent ruins that were not just cities, but cosmic diagrams built in stone. Each pyramid was a man-made mountain, each plaza a stage for sacred theatre, and each temple a gateway to the divine. Today, Maya religion is experiencing new revitalization. Spurred by indigenous pride and the Pan-Maya movement, there is a conscious effort to reclaim pre-Hispanic traditions. Younger generations are learning ancient hieroglyphs, studying sacred calendars, and seeking the wisdom of their elders. The story of Maya religion is therefore a story of continuity and transformation. It is a faith that has weathered conquest, colonialism, and the pressures of modernity, yet continues to provide profound meaning and identity to millions. It reminds us that great civilizations do not truly vanish. They live on in the language, rituals, and beliefs of their descendants. The sacred fire that was lit in the mythological dawn, tended by kings in stone temples and shielded through centuries of hardship, continues to burn today, a vibrant spiritual legacy for the future. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.